Hello, I'm so pleased to present this year's selections for the gallery. You'll see here this piece, it's very Americana, very modern. You might be drawn to the cute ghost in the middle, but I'd like to point your attention to the two skeletons. You'll find that skeletons are going to be a common motif amongst this year's artists, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Here you'll see a skeleton in the ground with its behind in the air. It's exposed, and I think that the skeleton, really shows a desire for the human collective to return to kind of its structure, its origins. And here we see just sort of the overall helplessness that everyone is experiencing in these times. This one really resonated with me. Personally, I too would just like to become one with the earth. This skeleton has achieved that, and I love the placements of the composition of the bones. This also reminds me of another skeleton piece that has been submitted to us and accepted to our gallery this year. Here, once again, we see a skeleton in its leisure position. It's just swinging through these moments of change. Truly, what we need to say about the skeleton motif that we find so common this year is that really a skeleton, you can't tell, the gender or the race or the makeup of who that individual was through the skeleton. But here, the skeleton is reclaiming its identity as a feminine presence. We see that through the wig and through the bra. And we don't know the gender of this skeleton, but I think that this skeleton piece is speaking to our need as humans to still kind of claim our identities. For example, here we see skeletons in love. This piece is very controversial, actually. It speaks to the division between being a part of corrupt institutions and yet still longing for human connection, and what drives us apart and what brings us together. The last skeleton piece, actually, yes, an homage to a very famous skeleton piece. We've seen this motif of skeletons drinking on the Pirates of the Caribbean. And, this is the final skeleton piece. This one really struck me because if you know anything about spiders, then you know that they don't have skeletons. They have exoskeletons. They are invertebrates, and this is depicting a vertebrate spider. And so I personally took this piece to show how humanity really wants to make everything, including spiders, in their image, even when we are longing for the universality of what makes us human, which is our skeletons, and that kind of inherent scaffolding, but then also projecting that onto the animal world. There is one more skeleton piece. This one is driving a carriage. It also has a kind of a nod to history, 18th century, 17th century England. You see that through the top hat, and again through the carriage. All of the skeleton pieces, I again believe, are an homage to the universality of being human. Here we see that the question of what it means to be human and to have a shared experience has been going on since hundreds of years ago. I want to point out a few other pieces. These don't have skeletons. I added the note same, and the reason I did that, I annotated this piece myself, is because I think that this really speaks to the feminine experience, in particular, that feminine rage that, just is there sometimes for women and women's experiences. And so I think this piece really speaks to that. This piece really was my favorite of this year, and I know it's not a skeleton. It is a pumpkin. A pumpkin, is this kind of image and this symbol of almost fertility, but also fertility in the context of fall, when everything is dying. Like we think of Cinderella, and her pumpkin and sort of the possibilities. I think pumpkins really are a symbol of possibilities. And then with the swimming iconography, we see that this pumpkin is ready to submerge into the subconscious, to really explore the depths. This is very important, because we saw all these skeletons. There was clearly a very heavy skeleton theme for 2024. And again, to reiterate, I believe that that is because we are seeking as a human collective to understand what it is that we all have in common, which is skeletons, amongst other traits. But here, this pumpkin and the abundance of possibilities submerging into the subconscious seems to say to me that we are also ready to understand ourselves on a personal, deeper level. And maybe through that, we will discover the universality of humans that we've seen through these skeletons. So this piece to me really sort of summed it all up. It just really, I think, is where we're heading in 2025. So thank you so much for joining me for this year's Spooky Art Installation series. Very pleased to have you.